So, treat this video basically as a podcast. It's way longer than I was expecting. To the point I got a new mic. I'm even going to mention that in the video. I mean, at the end of the video. Anyway, hope you enjoy.
This one actually looks pretty good. May I help you? Oh shit! Oh wait! Oh, sorry! Oh, the interviews, right? Oh fuck! Okay. Wait! Let me put this down. Okay. So let's have a little recap. Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising announced that there isn't going to be no downsides to using special inputs, which I think is great. I think Granblue already kind of had a groundwork for that. And I also want new IPs to be like that. Although I do not want old IPs like Street Fighter, BlazBlue, etc. to lose that. I think motion inputs still add a ton to the genre. They add feeling to each character, they add satisfaction to combos, and they also add strategy to the whole fight. I think they have a place. I just want new games that are, developed with that in mind as the default control scheme to exist. That's all I want, really. So, I also said at the end of the video that I was going to interview some people regarding their own feelings about this trend. Some of them are completely new to the genre, some of them don't really play, and some of them are veterans in their own merit. Although most of them are not really competitive players, at least not in fighting games, as far as I'm aware. I hope this can provide, maybe a different perspective to you, whoever is watching. Whatever your opinion is, maybe you can consider other aspects that you're not really thinking about. Okay, with all of that being said, let's go to the other room and let's start this, shall we? Jesus Christ, that's a lot of VTubers.
Hello everyone, my name is Sujima Vivi and I am a dark elf merchant VTuber.
Hi everyone, I'm Blay Goda. I usually just go by Blay. I'm the Lich Pirate VTuber.
So my name is Zam. I go by Zam VTuber over on Twitch, and I am a toilet.
Hello, my name is Sater. I am a vampire VTuber that has flowers growing out of their body.
My name's Lalia, and I am a Sinky Gremlin casual gamer VTuber.
Hi, I'm Tara Kaminarito. I'm the Lightning Rabbit Starfleet Admiral VTuber.
You are allowed to elaborate as much as you want, although I may egg you on to do so. If you don't feel comfortable with any questions at all, for whatever reason, just let me know and we can move on, okay? Have you played any fighting games before? Doesn't matter how long ago. If so, which that stuck to you?
I have played Smash Bros. I'm not quite sure which one because I was a child and my brothers had like different consoles
Oh,
that I didn't really know. Like, I don't know. I didn't really investigate like which kind of console this is. But aside from that, I've played Smash on the Wii and some Street Fighter that I
mhm.
streamed and Idol Showdown. That's pretty
Hey!
much it.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely got into fighting games first with Street Fighter 4 because that was, I try to remember why. I think I always saw videos of tournaments and all that. And that was the time where I really got into it. And then I had a kind of a falling out with the stuff where I just became not as invested. But with Street Fighter 6 coming out now, I've been back into it.
Well, it's safe to say that Street Fighter 4 was then your first fighting game that you kind of knew what you were doing.
Yeah, that's definitely the first one where I tried to know what I was doing beyond just punching the keyboard?
So my first experience with fighting games was Super Smash Brothers, Super Smash Brothers Brawl. That was my first, and that was the one that I never, didn't do any sort of competitive or anything really big in it, but it was just kind of, had a Wii as a kid, and it's what we played. It's what me and my family played. And then the first one that I really played, and I could say I really tried to learn, was the modded version, Project M. And that's where me and my friends we genuinely spent time trying to learn the game and get better. I still had never done any ranked stuff, and I wouldn't even say I'd gone to a locals. I did go to a club meeting at one point to play some other people. No, actually, no, I did go to one locals. I did go to one locals for that. And now, most recently is Smash Ultimate, but that's really where it's all lied, because I've never gotten into any other fighting games. I'd say the only other one I had ever touched for any extended period of time was every once in a while me and my friends would play Killer Instinct, but that's only a handful of times, and I really can't say I'm good at that.
But I mean, so the person that actually recommended me talking to you and inviting you here was Tara, and she said like Street Fighter 6 is like being your first fighting game that you're like traditionally anyway. You are like taking it more masterful here seriously.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is the first one that I've really put time into.
So I've played quite a few fighting games. I played Smash Bros. Obviously, from Melee to Brawl to 4 and Ultimate, as well as 64. But I didn't have Smash 64 growing up. My first Smash was Melee. I played Soul Calibur. I believe my first one was Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube, and then later I picked up Soul Calibur 5. I also have played Blaze Blue. I played Continuum Shift 2 and Chrono Phantasm. I really haven't played a lot of Street Fighter or Tekken. The most that I've done for those were arcade cabinets that I would see like at a barcade or something like that. And then I've also played Persona 4 Arena. Not the second one, the first one.
I've played a couple. Well, I played Super Smash Brothers, like the most mainstream casual stuff. I played Smash Brothers. We played Guilty Gear. I played a little bit of Guilty Gear with you and like offline a little bit, and that's basically it. I think I haven't really played. I'm not super experienced in like Mortal Kombat or stuff like that.
You played Strive after I kind of helped you get more of a grasp of how to do specials and stuff.
Oh wait, I played a Naruto one actually. A Naruto.
Which one?
I can't remember which one it was.
The
It was the
PS3
one.
one? The PS3 ones and onwards, or PS2?
I think the PS4. It was on the PS4.
Yeah, oh, okay, so it's the Storm series?
Yeah, I think it was Storm. Yeah, I think it was Storm.
I started playing fighting games just like maybe like a year ago with actually Tekken 7. And then I switched over to Street Fighter 5 when I heard that Street Fighter 6 was going to come out. And since then, I've pretty much been maining Street Fighter this whole time. And currently, I main Manon.
First question. You kind of already answered, and that kind of makes things easier. But have you played any fighting games before? If so, which? You mentioned Tekken 7 that you started with, and you moved to Street Fighter 5 when you found out that Street Fighter 6 was going to, be released. But even before that, a lot of us played games that were fighting games or close to that when we were like younger. Anything of worth mentioning for you?
So the first fighting game I ever played was Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo. My dad had it, when I was growing up. So like, that was probably my first fighting game ever. And then throughout the years as I was growing up, I had like a PlayStation 2 as well. And I played like Tekken 3, I think, on it. Like my dad had Tekken 3 on the PlayStation. I played Tekken Tag. I actually played a lot of Tekken growing up, surprisingly. Tekken 4, 5 as well. And then I didn't play any fighting games for a long time. And then just randomly, I was like, I want to play Tekken 7. So I started trying Tekken 7. And then I played a little bit of Guilty Gear Strive as well because I kind of wanted to try it. But my brain is too smooth for anime fighters.
For now, don't worry. You will join Judy's Clade back in the background. That's my dearest gorilla friend for that. Well,
do you like fighting games? And can you elaborate on why?
So before I played like with actual friends, I didn't like them as much. I thought they were kind of repetitive. But now I do see like a better story campaigns. Like I was playing the Idol Showdown one and I really liked it. And aside from that, I think that fighting games it's something that you really, really, really need to play with someone else. Because I feel like there's certain competitivity on the fact that it's a fighting game.
Yeah.
And it's really fun. It's really fun. You get to like play against your friends. It's something similar to other kind of sports in a way. Like if I am playing basketball with a friend, like I'm having fun playing the whole thing with them. And like playing basketball alone, it's fine. I mean, you could like practice that way, but it's not necessarily the same. I feel like the thrill of playing against someone else is what you like going back to that game.
Single player content has a limit for how long it can entertain you, right?
Yeah, there's also replayability, like you mentioned before, because it seems like some characters, and it depends a lot on like the franchise and everything, like which characters are like nice for replayability. Because if they all have the same powers, if they all do the same move, it's kind of boring.
That's kind of
like a skin.
Yeah. That's kind of why the FGC in general actually is very makes fun of like Smash. Not Smash. Naruto, those arena fighters, like Naruto Storm.
Oh yeah, but Naruto, was it Ninja Storm, the one that was it's kind of old?
I mean, is there any Naruto game that's not old at this point? Like
you
for
are
real?
right.
I mean, the first one was on the PS3, the second one also was on the PS3, probably the third one. And I think that the fourth and fifth were like cross-generation. I'm not entirely sure.
Just made me remember, I did play like the Naruto fighting game on my Wii. But I like gave it like a day and then like never touched it again.
Oh yeah, I do. I love fighting games.
Can you elaborate on why you like what attracts you to them?
I think it's probably a mixture of things. The one-on-one competitiveness of it is very enticing in that it feels like it's much more of a raw analysis of your skills compared to other games where there's always some teammates. Like there's much more you could blame in other genres, I would say, if anything goes wrong. Whereas in a fighting game, it feels much more personal in that way. I think I like that a lot. And also just the visual style of everything. I grew up with those animes like Dragon Ball and all that. So people punching each other was always something I was interested in.
I mean, let's be honest, who hasn't? Like anyone right at this point, who hasn't?
Yeah.
Is that a mixture of things? Would you say like these are the two main things that kind of maybe allure you to this type of genre?
Yeah, I would definitely say those are the main things. Then there was some aspect of just the community of it, because I would see online a lot of stuff with tournaments and all that, and that community aspect of the fighting game scene seems very strong, which I think is a big driving factor too.
Fighting games for me, they sit in a point of being they're very technical, and I find that kind of fun to comprehend. Especially, of course, if you're into the game, you'll learn more about it. But I enjoy going into it and going, oh, okay, with this character has this frame, and I can't do that quite. I'm very new to learning about frame data, so it's fun to figure out like, okay, if I do this, I'm positive on that, but I shouldn't do this against that because it's not going to work right. Or I gotta get the timing down for these combos, because learning timing was a big thing for me. It's like there's openings for these combos. I was like, oh my god. And then next to that is after you learn all these skills, you're able to put it into practice. And every win, especially in a public online space for ranked specifically, every time you get a win, it feels like a mini boss fight. You know, it feels great. You know, I mean, of course, losing doesn't feel that great, but winning feels amazing.
And it's great to hear, especially from like your words, not mine, like a very new player perspective.
Mm.
I think fighting games are pretty fun, especially if you're playing them with friends.
Can you elaborate on why you like the genre, or maybe just a specific? Each game has its own specific reason why you like that game.
I think with Smash Bros specifically, like there's a lot of nostalgia with like a lot of the characters, right? Like you've probably have played a Mario game or a Zelda game or a Kirby game.
Mm-hmm.
So like having a fighting game where you're playing as all these characters is part nostalgic, but it's also like it's fun to see your friends kind of get blasted off the screen instead of having a health bar where it just gradually goes down. In terms of the other fighting games, though, for like Soul Calibur versus like one of the more anime style fighting games, there's a lot of like positionals or positioning that like matters in terms of both like not just like the XY space, but also the Z space, because you can like you can dodge left or right, but you can also like backstep or dodge into an attack or jump over an attack. And it's why, like, at least for me, like Soul Calibur is like very distinct in that way. Being able to play with that kind of space makes it like really, really fun and gives it like a different form of competitiveness to it. For the anime fighting games, though, like I like them for very different reasons, because they're a lot more fast paced, at least from what I find. When I jump in, let's say, playing like Kibiki from Blaze Blue, I have a lot more fluid combos that can be executed than something like if I'm playing Maxi in Soul Calibur, where it feels like with him and I'm like spinning my nunchucks around, it can be a little clunky at points just because you're trying to also manipulate within a more 3D space versus playing this more 2D anime fighting game where there's a lot more fluid combat and things string together a little bit easier.
May I like add a little like an asterisk here? I think you kind of said sometime that you really liked to dive into story in a lot of anime fighters.
Yeah, I have I enjoy the story within anime fighters a lot. I find that some of the lore absolutely can be convoluted. I think Blaze Blue is the perfect example of a very convoluted story, but it kind of gives me an idea as well when I'm playing the story as to why each character plays the way that they do. When I know that Azrael is like a character that was like imprisoned because they're just way too strong, right? And then you see their mechanics in the fight, you kind of understand where that came from in the lore of everything. Or like how Ragna has a like lifesteal mechanic to him, or how Jin Kisaragi has a sword that expels ice, and you understand the burden that the sword has on him and his mind. So I think that the story within these games really does help to like kind of put into perspective where these characters come from and how to best, like, maybe not how to best utilize their power, but like understand where their power comes from, and maybe makes it easier for you to like understand their gimmick.
I'm pretty partial towards fighting games. Sometimes I get really overwhelmed with like remembering like different combos, and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why I don't play fighting games like a lot, because I tend to get really overwhelmed with that stuff. But it's still like I like to play casually, like button mash.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's fun.
I am a filthy casual button masher. Like I like playing it super casually with friends where we just like punch the shit out of each other and
It's fun.
stuff like that. I'm not a super expert at it.
You arguably are in a better spot than I am. I decided, oh, you know what? I want to get into it. Now, none of my friends want to play with me. But can you elaborate on maybe why? Like, what attracts you to the genre? Anything really?
I think it's just like it's fun. It's just the fact that it's kind of like a quick turn your brain off and just like enjoy yourself kind of game. You know what I mean? Not a lot of just like punch.
Hey, yo, you are gorilla brains like me. Let's go.
Yeah, so I like that.
Can you elaborate on why you like fighting games at all? Any reason is a good reason.
Okay, so I always kind of grew up playing 1v1 games. Like my like I guess like competitive gaming quote unquote history is like mostly StarCraft. I grew up playing Brood War and I played StarCraft 2 when it came out, and I played throughout all the expansions, and that was like my like competitive gaming, I guess. Like, when everyone else was playing like League of Legends, like all my friends were playing League of Legends and stuff, I was still playing StarCraft because like I don't know, I really like the idea of self-improvement, and like when I lose, it's like my fault, and like it's all on me, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think I naturally gravitate towards fighting games when I'm kind of itching for that competitive gaming. Because like I can't really play StarCraft much anymore because like I've been out of it for a really long time, and my hands and like my brain doesn't move as quickly as it as it used to.
She's becoming a boomer. Let's go.
So but like fighting games, I feel like I can kind of like keep up with because I can see everything on the screen, and reacting is just like one thing, and so I think that's primarily the reason why I really like fighting games now. It's because it's a 1v1 game that I can like really grind and enjoy and get that competitive itch.
What would you say is the level of competence that you think you need to be at a game to have fun with it?
Absolutely zero.
Zero. Oh, that's nice.
I mean, if you're new to it, you can still have fun with it. Like you can fight against other newbies, and you can fight against people who already are like experienced or well known in like a fighting game or like fighting tournaments and that kind of stuff. I mean, they're gonna kick your ass, but as long as you don't get angry about it, I think it's a fun experience to try and see and compete against them. Sometimes you will win. Like it's a matter of numbers at the very end.
Eventually.
Eventually.
1 out of 100 is still a victory.
Yes. Just like Dark Souls.
Yeah, you've been kind of in the Dark Souls 2 hole lately.
Yeah. But it's good, it kind of teaches you to like and I mean it in fighting games, it kind of teaches you to keep practicing and keep going. Like that's what I mean with the spirit of competitivity backing you up. Like you gotta beat him, and then when you do, you feel all I did, all the stuff that I did to train was for something. Like.
But I mean, at that point, you are not already like at zero skill, at zero competence. You already are at a certain level, isn't it?
I mean, mostly is like your question was more like oriented to the fact that I guess people get kind of angry when the learning curve is too high. Maybe?
So let me elaborate a little more on the intention of the question, like what's behind it. Like a lot of people really like they want to have fun in a game, like right away for obvious reasons. Like you're not there to work, you're there to have fun, and most people don't really want to work for their fun, which is understandable. You want to relax, and a lot of people don't like the feeling of sit in training room in the case of fighting games to have a grasp at anything. But I mean, the same would go for, let's say, Valorant. Like, you don't know the positioning, you don't know which weapon or how to handle any weapon or characters. So a lot of people don't really try to get into those type of games. They stick to single player games, and that's fine. And that's kind of the idea of the, like, what level of competence do you need to have fun? Like in your case, you said 0, and I have no reason to not believe you. But you kind of touched like on something like that's kind of the appeal of fighting games. The self-improvement for a lot of people is the appeal. But now it's me answering my own question.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. But also, those people who say that they don't have like to put an effort are really annoying. Because you have to put an effort on anything that you do. I mean, we're like on the era of instant gratification, and people get used to just playing something and getting like immediate release of serotonin on their brains.
Give me that dopamine already.
Give me that dopamine. Yeah. And I think it's annoying. You gotta work for it. Like, there is, like, you as a human should be capable of telling your lazy brain, no, I know that I don't want to play this game because it's gonna make me train, it's gonna make me be in pain, and it's gonna feel bad, and I don't want to feel bad because I want to play a game. No, tell your brain it's gonna feel even better, and you might actually regulate your dopamine release system because it's probably very fucked by stuff like TikTok and stuff.
Okay.
Play the fighting game or play like the difficult game. Try training, and I bet that you'll remember. Once you beat that boss, that it's very hard. Once you beat that person that has way more hours in a game than you feel great and you won't forget. Like it's gonna, because you took so much time trying to achieve this and improve. It is gonna be like the feeling of like, oh, I finally got it. It's gonna last longer. I still remember playing against my older brother, Smash Bros, and finally beating him after years of playing with him.
Hey.
And it was like, it's like a wholesome memory. I feel like instant gratification might feel good for like a little bit, but like you kind of forget those games. We have many examples of games that were like really liked by the public, but easily forgotten because they were so quick or like very like a small gratification kind of games.
For me, it's pretty low, honestly. As long as I like know what I'm supposed to do, I can enjoy myself. It only becomes a problem for me if I feel like I genuinely have no idea how I'm supposed to be playing.
Are we talking specifically about like strategy or like any type of like, oh, I don't understand what to do or how to do?
About a mix, I would say. Like understanding the fundamentals would mainly be it. Like just knowing that there's like a basic idea on how I'm supposed to do this. Like an example that could also come up would be like MOBA type games like League of Legends. If you just, I mean, gonna get shot for mentioning League of Legends, by the way. But if you go into that and you genuinely don't know that there's like a base style you're supposed to do it in, it becomes very much like this sucks. Which a lot of people say it sucks anyway, but still.
I mean, I normally hear more people complaining about the community than the game itself. I mean, the game, people will always complain about their games, to be fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, exactly. I will never complain about BBCF, my beloved. But I mean, you clearly kind of focus a little bit more while you're answering that. You focus a little bit more on fighting games, and you mentioned MOBAs. But do you think that's true for like every type of game in general? even single player, maybe.
Yeah, I would say so, actually, because there's kind of like a core to a lot of games that if you're lacking that, I think a big thing on that end that makes games enjoyable can be that feeling of getting better, of progress.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the fundamentals, it can easily feel like you don't even know how to progress.
I think when it's in terms of, it depends on, if we're talking about fighting games specifically. I do think I need a somewhat higher level of competence in the game to have fun, because I do correlate winning with having fun, because it's not fun to lose. It's fun to learn, but it's not fun to lose. So especially in fighting games, I feel like I do need a higher level of competence that I need in, say, than say Call of Duty or just an FPS game, which I have a basic understanding of them. You play one, you play them all. You know them. But when it comes to fighting games, there's a lot that can be different, and so I think I need a better understanding of each game to then have fun in it.
I caught one of your streams the other day. You were playing Apex. Do you mean to say that playing Apex and playing COD is the same? Like, is it that similar, or is it just because adaptation periods for Apex maybe was smoother?
Yeah. No, I now you bring that up as a good point, and I do think that is the case. Is that my transition to Apex from any other FPS game is much smoother than someone who, if say the roles were reversed, say I'm a new player into Street Fighter, but if someone was a Street Fighter vet and was a new player in Apex, they'd have the same difficulties that I'm having. It's definitely my own skill is helping me with my transition into Apex, or my transition into Apex, as I've been playing it for a while now.
I think that depends on the fighting game that you're playing, because the easier it is to pick up the game itself, I think the easier it will be to have fun at the start, but it does not necessarily mean a longevity for fun. If you're playing Blaze Blue and you have a character that is easy to do, like Ragna is one of the easier characters. I mean, is literally the main character. So, Mai is also an incredibly easy character. Having these characters that are incredibly easy so that we can learn the basics can make for a very fun experience at the start. And then if you decide to transfer over to a more difficult character like Hazama or something, then you can have not as much fun there. But I think the fun can come from learning the character and becoming a master of it. But it does mean that you're going to have to put in a lot of times where you're just not having fun, which is a big ask. It is a big ask to have a character. Like if you jumped in to Soul Calibur and you said, play Voldo, right? I mean, you can have fun, like breaking your back with every attack, but you're not going to know what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, when you don't understand why you can't get out of like a spider crawl, you're not going to have as much fun as if you were playing someone like Keelik or something. I think Persona 4 Arena does it really well, because with the auto combo, you can feel like you're doing something, but eventually you move away from the auto combo and you can develop proficiency. And the auto combo with any character can make you feel like you can understand that character and their gimmick a little bit easier. But you also understand that you're taking a risk with the auto combo. So you decide, I'm going to learn how to not use the auto combo. And you have fun then now knowing the character without the auto combo, and it feels good.
I think a game is as fun as you want it to be. Like, if you enjoy a more casual kind of like easy experience against other people, then like, just fighting against friends is super fun.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be super experienced or confident, just enjoy yourself. But like, I feel like with fighting games, if you want to like, if your level of enjoyment is dependent on like competition and like winning and like getting better, then it's like you need to gain more experience and stuff. I think it's like, thing about fighting games, I think it's as competitive as you want it to be, basically. I know, like, whenever someone thinks of fighting games, they're like, oh, I have to be like a super sweat, but like, it's not necessarily true. I mean, if you want to be a casual player, I think there's space for that, you know. So.
Do you think we, as like by we I mean the FGC, the fighting game community, do you think we kind of focus maybe too much on the competitive aspects?
I'm not super experienced with the community, but I think there probably is like a level of sweat that goes into it. But that's the thing with any kind of competitive gaming. You're gonna have a community that is more focused on the competitive aspect, and you know, rather than like the fun casual aspect. I mean, it's with any like gaming genre, really.
Yeah.
So I think there is. I haven't searched them out, but I'm sure there's fighting communities that there's certain niches in the community that focus more on just like casual and just like fun. You know what I mean? Well, not necessarily just fun, because people have fun doing competitive stuff too, but like more of a casual experience.
Yeah, just shits and giggles.
Yeah, the shits and giggles, you know.
Well,
I think that's a really good. I think that's a really good question, actually. I think that for me personally, for like specifically fighting games,
yeah,
I think any level of competence is enough to be fun, because I think the fun of it is like learning and improving. So like even when I was just starting out, I was losing a lot, and like that was obviously losing is not as fun as winning. The fun of it develops more for me when I do start progressing over time, if that makes sense.
It makes. I mean, I kind of feel the same way. Although I like the level I'm at, I can have fun and enjoy myself purposefully doing bad decisions, because you know when they normally they don't work, but when they work, I'm just having the time of my life with the other person tilting, you know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like you just like do something like really like
supposedly stupid, but sometimes
yes,
it works. So I'm like, heck yeah.
Yeah, but like I think that like learning fundamentals, I think puts you in a place where you can have more fun playing. You know, like when I was growing up, I was like mashing buttons in like Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yeah.
When I was like playing against my dad. But then when he told me how to do like quarter circle forward or like Hadoken, like that immediately makes the game more fun, right? Because like you can do things purposefully with intention.
Play with intentionality. What you're trying to say, right?
Exactly. I think maybe that's a level that makes it more fun. Like with like anime fighters and stuff like that, I'm sure I could have more fun if I like really study the fundamentals of anime fighters, right? Like Strive, for example.
Yeah.
But because I didn't really learn it, I think that's why I didn't have as much fun, and I feel like I can't keep up.
I mean,
with other people.
The genre of anime fighters tend to be like way more. Not saying that Street Fighter and Tekken cannot be aggressive, but they are more. I wanna say, as someone that is not used to those more traditional, even more traditional games like fighting games, yeah, they are a little more slow, kinda. So,
oh, definitely.
Yeah, and slow in the sense that in anime fighters sometimes you can, and I'm going to quote Romola here, you can kind of force your own bullshit. And Street Fighter, not necessarily. Maybe it depends on the character. Yeah. But I mean, you are better at saying that than me again.
So, yeah, no, I agree with that.
How hard is or was getting fighting games for you, and why?
It was a little hard for me because I never like really thought about playing them. I don't know. Whenever they released a fighting game, it's not my first thought to be excited and think like, oh, I'm gonna play this. You know, like, oh, cool. How do the characters look? I am a very like character-driven person. So if it's a design that I really like, I will probably give it an opportunity. And there's been like designs that I really liked. I like Chun-Li, Yurian,
Hey, let's go! Fit gang!
No, not Fit gang. Sorry, you're at work, you're recording this, right?
Yes, I am recording, don't worry.
Remember when I started playing Smash Bros?
Yeah.
Well, I really like the designs of Princess Peach there because I never like before that you never had like a fully rendered 3D model of Princess Peach, and I would always pick her because she was a very iconic character of my childhood, and she's pretty as well, and pink.
Pretty.
Pretty, yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I guess I'll sum it up by saying that it's kind of hard for me, and for what I see in other people, I feel like it's a little harder for them because of what we mentioned before, but also because now I feel like there's an actual intention from developers to make female characters uglier. Listen,
I'm
this is
listening.
my unbiased view.
Okay.
If I'm ugly in real life, I don't want to be ugly in a video game. I want to play a pretty woman that like is badass and attractive. Because I feel like that's like the in a way you could say that's like the epitome of feminine beauty. For example, I remember like sorry if I derail, but I got really pissed when people started shitting on Bayonetta. Because I love Bayonetta.
Did you ever shit on Bayonetta at all? Like for
yes, back in the day when like there started to be a lot of criticism on female objectification on video games.
Okay.
They started to shit on Bayonetta. I looked at her and I thought, wow, I really want to look like her. And it helped a lot that she also wore glasses. Because I was like, I also wear glasses. And she looks so cool wearing glasses.
Just like me, for real.
She's just like me, for real. And the style in which she's portrayed, like, it's almost satirical in a way. Like, she's such a feminine icon that it's almost funny at how she represents herself and her sexuality. It's great. I love it.
But I do like this tangent though. But so just let's kind of just round up this topic. Like TLDR, for you specifically, is because you are a very character-driven person. You want to see cool characters, like that brings you to try a game in general, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was definitely difficult at first because compared to other games, there's a lot more you need to know to kind of, I feel like, get a little bit to the baseline. I mean, you can button mash, which is the easy start, but looked like the controls are usually pretty different compared to other games you would play. So some of it doesn't come as naturally with muscle memory as it would with other games.
Can you think of any example of a game that's not a fighting game that has either like the strategy or control scheme that fighting games use?
Not really, honestly. Fighting games with the motions and everything are pretty distinct in terms of like, the only thing I could think of is there might have been a beat 'em up that used them once, but I think that was almost like a novelty to like be like, we have the controls like a fighting game does. Like, they're pretty distinct.
I will actually bring one here, Symphony of the Night.
Oh, that game uses that actually?
I'm pretty sure it does. Because I didn't play Symphony of the Night a lot because I don't like the style of like 2D exploration in general. But I'm pretty sure like you can do like the motions and you can do like special spells and stuff.
Oh yeah, I just looked it up. Yeah, it seems to be saying there's definitely like motion controls here.
Oh fuck yeah, I'm not that old yet.
That's interesting, actually. I didn't know that.
I mean, it's an
neat that they integrate
right?
that.
That's kind of the exception to the rule.
Yeah, that's pretty cool actually, because that game's pretty beloved too.
Yeah.
So to touch on it, we can talk about it later, but to touch on it, the main reason that I got into Street Fighter 6 is I wasn't actually planning on getting into it at all. But I mentioned it to a friend. I was like, oh, this game looks really cool. And I said something along the lines of like, yeah, but doing quarter circles and inputs is hard. And he said, oh, well, you don't need to do that in this game. they have a new control scheme. So I think in terms of traditional fighting game and what you understand as the control scheme of having to do quarter circles and whatever the whatever you got to do with the stick or the or your pad or whatever you're using, that it's very hard for me. So if it wasn't for the new controls, it would be very hard for me to get into fighting games.
Have you tried, like, since you got more into the game, Street Fighter 6 specifically, have you tried like playing with the traditional controllers at all so far?
So one of the things that I've done is I have not fully switched to classic controls, but with the modern control setting, especially with the character that I main Luke. He has a few moves. I mean, maybe every other character has these moves, but he has a few moves that do run off of doing quarter circle forward or quarter circle back. It was only after realizing that those moves were available to me that I go, okay, maybe I should try this. And now I'm starting to understand that more. Now, granted, I do still mess up the inputs every now and again, but I am able to use them somewhat regularly in my play style. Would I go fully back to traditional controls? I don't think so, but I'm able to slowly understand how traditional inputs work now.
Nice, that's great actually. I mean, it's the modern control doing their job, I'd say.
Yeah.
Certain fighting games are a lot harder to get into than others. Smash Bros is a very easy fighting game to get into just because you have like your A button and your B button, right? Like you have your attacks and your specials. Now, to get proficient at it, obviously there's a difference, right? Like there's a difference between like becoming a master of playing Mario in Smash Bros to becoming a master of Mario in Smash Bros. But in terms of picking up and playing, Smash Bros is one of the easiest. Persona 4 Arena is also, I think, a game where, even though it's an anime fighting game, because I think anime fighting games are kind of harder to get into. Persona 4 Arena did something where you had auto combos. And while the auto combos took some of your health and essentially graded out where if you got hit, then you would lose it, you could still recover that health if you weren't getting attacked. But it made it easier to pull off combos and feel like you did something very satisfying. Soul Calibur, I mean, the amount of times that you would have a friend pick up like the second controller and mash buttons and all of a sudden they win, like that is quite common. So, I mean, I guess Soul Calibur was also like one of the easier games to pick up. But for anime fighting games in general, and like I played Street Fighter 6 recently, I found that playing those games, unless you already have a base understanding of like, oh, you have to do certain stick movements and then you have to press like this button, this button, this button, it can be very daunting, especially when you have people talk about like, oh, like 5C is better than 6F or something like that. Like people don't understand what that means, right? Like they don't understand like, oh, when you say 5C, you mean just keep your stick in like the neutral position. Or if you do like, so I think that like with certain games, especially games that rely on a lot of like stick movements, it definitely is a lot harder to get into. But I think the hardest thing to get into is the lingo. But removing those barriers to entry, like how like Smash Bros did, or even Street Fighter 6 is a great example because they have modern for a controller setup where you can do auto combos, but it's for less damage. It does make it easier for new people to get into. And I think it's a step in the right direction to get people in, but you eventually will like then change over to the more classic styles.
You are assuming the person, like in, let's say that this player that uses the modern controls, they really enjoy the game. Do you think it's an inevitability for them to change to classical?
I think if they want to play online, they will eventually, especially if they fall in love with a character, right? Like if they fall in love with playing Ken, or Chun-Li or even like Zangief. They're going to make those efforts to master the character. And when they know that playing with modern controls limits their full output, they will either become the masters of modern control so that way they can pull off combos even with this damage reduction, or they will gradually make the shift over.
I think it could be a little intimidating starting in, just because it's just there's so much stuff that you feel like, even when we were playing together and you're teaching me, there's so much stuff like I wouldn't have known about, like, unless someone told me that kind of stuff. So I feel like probably if you're like playing on your own, it could probably be really hard to get into. But if you're like playing with other people, getting experience with that, then probably be a lot like nicer to get into, just being like kind of taught a little bit.
I would like to take this opportunity to kind of apologize, because here's the thing. I felt at the time, anyway, I felt very strongly about making sure you understand that, oh, the combos are not really everything. But I think I kind of dumped, not maybe, I 100% dumped too much stuff on you, like, at
No,
once.
it's okay.
I
No,
said,
I thought it was fine. Like, it was fun. Like, it was really informative. Like, it was, as someone who's like really not really much of a competitive player, it was fun, like, hearing like about like kind of like the in and outs of it. So I enjoyed it. It was nice. It was nice hearing about all that stuff.
nice.
It was very interesting.
I just really felt that maybe, I mean, not that, oh, I wouldn't tell you, but maybe that wasn't the correct time, let's say. But I mean, if you enjoyed it, I feel a little more relieved.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Nice,
Good
nice.
time.
Also, I'm very glad to hear that you actually played more offline.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
glad
been a
you
little
enjoyed
bit
it.
more. Yeah.
Did you try playing Faust? I think you kind of react very
Yeah,
excited about Faust.
I liked Faust I liked him.
He's funny. I like him.
He's funny.
So I can actually come back to the point of the question. So you say that the genre kind of has maybe too much stuff, like that you feel like you're being overwhelmed.
I feel like it could be a little intimidating to like new people, for sure. Like, I feel like that's just it. It's just a little intimidating, but I feel like as long as like more experienced people are more open to like welcoming new people who don't understand and being like open to teaching them and like just having fun with them, then I think it would bring a lot of people to the fighting sphere. Yeah.
I think that getting into fighting games like was not too difficult for me because like as like someone who used to watch actually a lot of esports, I used to watch esports for games like I didn't even play, you know what I mean? Because I just like love watching it. So I used to be really into Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Smash Melee, and every year during Evo, I'd watch Smash, but I would also watch like everything else, right? Yeah, I mean like to like just get into fighting games, like just to watch and like enjoy as a spectator. In my opinion, it's pretty easy because it's like there's so little explanation that you need to like know what's going on the screen. You know, there's like life bars are there. You only see two characters on the screen. They're doing it. They're fighting it.
Yeah.
Life is going down, and then they lose or they win, right?
Yeah. But what about playing?
But playing, like, let's see. It was like I don't want to say that was like hard getting into it because like I wanted to start playing it, and then but the wall, like the learning curve, is quite high in my opinion. Especially like I started like taking Tekken seriously first before Street Fighter, and like to this day, I can't sidestep. Yeah, so I think I hit a wall with that, but I was really lucky that I had somebody teach me how to play Street Fighter. Just like the basic like whiff punish, footsies, anti-air, that kind of stuff. That made it easier for me to get into the like Street Fighter, for example. But I know that when a lot of people start out, they don't really have like guidance.
Would you say you were if you hadn't like anyone specifically to help you didn't have a friend? And this is not a question I haven't written, but since this kind of came up. Twitter aside, because it's Twitter, would you say the FGC feels welcoming?
I would say so. I think every person that I've interacted with, like, I think that most everyone has been nothing but welcoming.
Yeah.
And like supportive and like want to help and like want to teach me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I haven't really had that many interactions with like toxic FGC people. Not many.
Every tree has bad apples, right?
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah. Exactly. Every community has.
What are your feelings regarding these traditional inputs?
So what do you mean exactly by traditional?
Traditional in the case of fighting games, it means, for example, the quarter circle, down, forward, and a button. That's a traditional input. It's traditional because it's been there since Street Fighter 2. I mean, Street Fighter 1 technically, but nobody cared about Street Fighter 1.
Oh, that's true. I feel like it's pretty neat.
Do you like doing them now that you are able to?
Yes, I like doing them now that I'm able to.
Well,
I still feel like there's like certain ones that I need to practice to get the hang of better, especially the ones that, for example, I never realized before that the controller was so sensitive. Certain like do certain things, like to do certain combos, you have to be very quick. It's a little difficult to get the hang of it without like constantly training.
I am 100% sure you would be able to do that like by yourself. But without me, how long do you think it would take for you to kind of get the hang of it?
I'd say 2 more sessions of around 3 hours of playing it, because like right now I haven't touched Idle Showdown like that much. I've been busy with other stuff. But since I remember a bunch of stuff, so I could go back and like, practice. Yeah, I could do it again. I don't think it's that difficult.
Nice having a beginner with boomer opinion. Actually, it's spicy.
Why is it spicy?
Because until now, most beginners that I interviewed are very like, oh, I don't like, or I think they are too hard. I don't. And we're going to conclude this.
Get good, scrub. Learn how to play.
Okay.
Tell your brain to work.
That's great. That's great content. Thank you.
I tend to like them, honestly. It takes a while to get used to it, but once you build that muscle memory up, which just practicing the motions helps a ton with, honestly, you kind of, for one thing, you don't really forget how to do them. Because, like, I remember when I first played Street Fighter 4, it took me a while to consistently be able to do some of them. But then when I picked up 6 now, after it's been like years since I played one, I was immediately able to do them again. So it adds this nice dynamic feel to like the way you're playing that makes it almost feel more, I feel more immersed, I guess, in a fighting game with that type of controls. Yeah, it like creates this nice flow to you while you're playing it.
That's a very unique take, actually. Out of everyone that I interviewed so far, I don't think anyone ever said about like a sense of immersion with like the special inputs.
Oh hell yeah! Let's go.
Let's go. I mean, that's not really in the list of questions. So, but can you remember exactly why or like how you were feeling when you were trying to get into Street Fighter 4? Like, what made you like go through that barrier, the execution barrier?
I think that a big part of it was friends, because I had friends that were getting into the fighting game scene too. But there was also just, I remember I watched a lot of videos at the time online that people would like offhandedly play Street Fighter 2 some or something at that time. So when I saw that a new big one was coming out, I remember there being a lot of fanfare around Street Fighter 4 with kind of like the return of fighting games franchise, yada yada.
Yeah.
And I think I just wanted to get in on that.
In general, I think we can probably all agree that doing something with friends makes like even a bad game. Not saying that Street Fighter 4 is bad, by the way. I'm just saying like even bad games we can enjoy with friends.
Oh
a lot
yeah,
of
for sure.
times, either at the expense of the game or like struggling together.
Yeah, and I think that helps too. If you get people that are on your same level that you're learning the game with, it can make you a lot more invested because there can be a large skill gap in fighting games. And sometimes you're playing with someone who knows the game so well that it's like they have to play with one hand to be on your level.
How do you feel about like when the good player kind of goes easy on you?
It can depend, I guess. There are times where I feel like it can be useful for learning if they're trying to like help you understand something, but otherwise it can honestly feel kind of irritating. Like you're not even worth like the challenge kind of feeling.
Yeah. I mean, what is worse, being patronized or being like, stomped?
Yeah, I would definitely rather just get stomped on than deal with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly say, I think I'd rather get that because, hey, I know I'm bad. That's not an
Yeah.
ego thing, but like the other ones, like the person didn't even try. I'm like,
Yeah, it definitely gives you that patronizing feeling, like
Yeah.
you're saying, that you're so bad that like they're treating you almost like you're like a kid in
Yeah.
comparison to them.
Yeah, I also hate the feeling.
I think traditional inputs in fighting games. Of course, I already answered this, but to me, of course, they're hard. They are somewhat difficult. But I know I have a good few friends who they use traditional inputs for fighting games, and more power to them because that's, like I said, that's very difficult to me. But they're able to understand it and they're able to use it. Now, I do think that traditional inputs for fighting games, I think, is an entrance barrier for a lot of people who know these games, and I think it creates a little bit higher of a skill floor for most people versus with new modern controls having a lower skill floor.
I'm assuming you wouldn't, say, oh, I want Street Fighter to lose this permanently. But let's say from now on, every new IP that is a fighting game is going to be modern control style, or if you prefer, Smash style control. The rest of the market should, change to follow that, or should just stay the way they are.
Personally, I believe I don't think they should switch to modern. Like they should not fully switch to modern controls, just because there is such a large fan base and a large player base that has used the traditional controls for so long, and it is what it is. It is traditional, It is always going to be there. There's always going to be people who want to use them and want to learn them. I think Street Fighter 6 is taking an amazing step forward, having modern controls and other games that are doing more modern controls. But I think getting rid of traditional controls would not be a good idea in the gaming industry.
I think that obviously there are certain motions that are harder to do. Yeah. Like if you're doing like a 6-2-3, that can be harder for a new player to do versus like a 2-3-6. Mm-hmm. I think that when it comes to, like, as I said, I'm not really someone who's played a lot of Street Fighter or Tekken or anything like that, right? Mm-hmm. If I am picking up a game for the first time, having those modern controls does help. It does help for me to see if I like the game and if I like a character and everything like that. Depending on how much I like the fighting game, it will make me want to transition to a more classic or traditional way of fighting. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to feel like I'm nerfing myself to do a combo. Because once you lose a match and they have that sliver of HP left, and you know that they have that because you use the auto combo, when if you did the regular combo, the classic combo, you would have killed. I mean, that feels real bad. So it can encourage you to transition over. I think the issue comes when the modern control is just so, like, it doesn't have either a strong enough penalty for using it, or it feels like the auto combo can just get you way, way, way further than you need to. Because if you can go from, let's say, bronze all the way to diamond with an auto combo, you're not going to want to change. If you can beat pretty much everyone with an auto combo, why would you change? But if you only can get up to gold, and then there's still like platinum, then diamond, and you can't get past gold because of this auto combo, or even like silver, you can't get like into gold because of auto combos. I think that it encourages you to need to branch out a bit and try the classic combos, especially if you're that like set on wanting to improve. You're eventually going to have to learn how to do the 623 or the 236 or whatever it might be.
Point of contention in the discourse of like the whole accessibility and getting newcomers into the genre
Mhm.
is that the motion input is one of the biggest reasons why a lot of newcomers just don't really try to dive more deep into the genre, or maybe not even trying at all. So how do you feel about these comments?
So there's going to be like, are they adding like accessibility?
That actually has been a lot of games, especially since I want to say 2020, that more high profile games are trying to make a more traditional playing fighting game, but with more accessible controls. Because we have fighting games that are very accessible, like Naruto Storm is actually very easy to pick up and play, and I think it's fun enough. There is the Kimetsu no Yaiba Arena Fighter that's kind of like same idea. But then traditional fighters start actually doing that for some time now. We have Granblue Fantasy Versus and now Rising releasing that kind of sparked this whole debate again. Every single year, the same horse dies. We have DNF Duel that, and I will kind of wrap up with a more concise explanation. And this year we also have Street Fighter 6 with modern controls. And all of them basically are like, oh, I have a special button and I can do my specials in a Smash-like manner, just but pure button forward, button down, button up, or stuff like that.
Okay, so it's like, is there like, are people kind of like in the fighting community who are more veteran, are they like kind of like off-put by that?
A lot of people are, but I mean, probably is not as big as Twitter make it sound like, but it's still like a point of contention. Since I mean, one, it's traditional, and a lot of people grew to like this type of control scheme and stuff.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
motions do bring strategy for you to consider. Okay, let's say I do an invincible move. Normally I have to do a special command. That command requires me to react and actually perform it. With this easy input, you actually can do it way more reliably and faster. And I mean, that's kind of one of the points against easy inputs.
So you feel like you're at disadvantage because you're so used to the traditional like buttons, and you feel like it's kind of like a screw you when they add like more of a different feature that might be like more efficient for like newcomers. So I get it. I mean, I think it's just like a big problem with like traditionalists when it comes to like certain types of media where like, like a game evolves and changes as it goes on, and it's like you're gonna have a lot of people who are just like, oh man, I hate this. And like it's understandable. I mean, you get so used to like a certain thing, and if they change it, you're just like, man, this doesn't seem like, oh man, this doesn't seem fair. It's like, oh man, they're making it easier. Like I struggled, so you should too. So it's like so I don't know, but I understand the disappointment, but it's also like games, especially games these days, are trying to make themselves more accessible to like a newer, wider audience, right? So it's understandable why they do that, and I think people should be more open to that, bring more people like into the community and like enjoying the game, rather than just kind of be like, you know what? No. So I am all for like games adding like more accessible options to like newcomers and just making game a little more like accessible, these days. I'm 100% for that. But again, I do understand people being disappointed by that as well and being a little angry about it. So there's both sides.
I mean, another argument that I actually heard a lot is that a lot of people really like be like to do, let's say, a difficult combo in the same way, like probably the same way that, oh man, this boss is so hard, but when I beat it,
yeah,
it's such a
true.
thrill. And I think that's also a fair argument.
I think that is satisfying. I mean, that's also a really fair argument that it's more satisfying to complete something that's a bit more difficult than it is to complete something that's a lot more easier, right? So it's more satisfactory. So there's arguments against that too, for sure. I totally get that.
But like for you specifically, not necessarily in general, but how do you feel about the traditional ones? I think
they're okay. I mean, I haven't been doing fighting games long enough to really been like, man, like this shit slaps. Don't change it. But it's like I'm not, but like I don't know. I do say that as I'm like a very casual. I have ADHD, right? And I'm a very casual gamer, and it's just like super casual. And it's just, as a super casual gamer, traditional fighting games can be a bit intimidating and kind of like overwhelming. So, but then again, it's also like, am I like their target audience for that kind of game?
I mean, that's exactly why they are doing this type of changes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, so that's exactly why, is because they want to like kind of like be like, hey, we want the more casual gamers to start coming in, right? So
I think that like traditional inputs are, I think they're fun, and like learning how to do them is like fun, because like when you get it, it feels great, right?
Yeah.
I don't play on stick.
Yeah.
I have a stick actually coming. I play on a hitbox because yeah, I actually when I started playing Tekken, I didn't have a controller. Like I didn't have a pad. I didn't have a hitbox. I didn't have anything, so I played on keyboard. So
Jesus Christ.
Like, yeah, so I learned how to play Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7 on my keyboard, and so like getting a hitbox like just made more sense to me because I was like used to inputting my directions with it, and I really like it.
Okay, cool.
I think that the inputs, in my opinion, in my brain, they make sense. It might not be true for everybody, but maybe because I've done it since I was like a kid, like with Street Fighter, that to me, I'm like, okay, quarter circle, half circle, 360, all that stuff. Like, like to me, it kind of makes sense. Like the move that comes out according to the input.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I get it. With the rise of these easier methods to do specials and combos, how do you feel about this trend?
I feel like they're only doing that because they want more people playing the game.
I mean, no shit.
Because it's because there will be no learning to play it. But it's kind of hard because companies only do this to get more money, and I feel that it's not good. Like morally, it is wrong, and it's also like a little disrespectful to the people that have been playing for a lot of years, that have supported these companies for a lot of years. I feel that's you know that I am a merchant, right? So I have my own business.
I'm still waiting for my salary, by the way.
No. Listen. So I joke about that other kind of stuff, like not paying you guys and being like a bad boss and everything. But I do criticize companies a lot because I believe like in small businesses supported by a community that really likes them, sometimes you don't need to grow more. Businesses take a risk by doing this. Like they say, okay, we're gonna release this new stuff and it's gonna attract a lot of Zoomers into playing my game. What about the guys that have been supporting us for 30 years or more? Eventually, that's what kills a brand and a game.
In general, I think it's pretty good because it raises the floor for people to be an easier starting point, because that starting point was always daunting for fighting games. And also, it increases accessibility, which is always good because there are some people that, for whatever condition they have or whatever, they can't do the normal motions. So making it so more people are able to play the games, I just view as a net good. Even though I prefer the classic controls, I can see a big benefit in expanding it.
Let me expand the question a little bit. A lot of people bring the accessibility argument, and I think that's a great argument as well. But what if the person just wants to have fun? With the easy inputs, everyone can play in a certain level of intentionality, at least from almost the get-go. And I do think that's kind of the biggest benefit.
No, I would definitely agree with that actually, because that was always an issue I feel like with fighting games, was that when people were more casual with it, they would like if they played it like a party game, for example, you basically just punch the controller and hope moves come out. But with this mode, if someone's very casual and just playing it for fun with friends, you can actually like experience more of what the game has to offer, which I think also helps broaden interest in the genre as a whole.
The video, actually, in the video, I say that my point with like accepting this type of motions, easy motions. I mean, can we call them motions when you are actually not doing a motion? It's just direction.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, I will just keep calling it motions just for the sake of consistency. With these easy motions, I want people to just try the genre. A lot of people avoid like the plague, and I get it. And also, it's not for everyone. No genre is for everyone. I particularly do not like battle royales, for example. But I tried it. I can find maybe one, heck, maybe even two that I actually care for. And I do want people to just try fighting games. Not necessarily like that, because they can't control that. And easy inputs kind of facilitate that. No?
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely think that it lowers the skill floor to a way that's way more manageable for people just looking into it. And I think that is really helpful, both in letting people enjoy it and also just broadening interest in the genre as a whole. If it's too high of a wall, then no one's going to come in, basically.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that, execution is not that hard. And I do agree that I don't think a quarter circle is that hard, or even a DP, honestly. And put them on an environment that, as you said, they can't blame anyone else. And they sometimes just have to accept that, I suck. But also, as you said, like in an environment like, you are with friends and stuff, it can be like just way better of an experience. You actually kind of answered the last two questions, but maybe, you have something to say that you either forgot or didn't come to mind. So let's keep going. With the rise of these easier methods to do specials and combos in games like Street Fighter 6, DNF Duel, Grand Blue, what are your feelings towards this trend? Is there something that maybe you didn't get to say previously?
Yeah, I think I really don't. I'm gonna just sound like a broken record, but
it's okay.
It's a great trend going forward. It allows many more people like myself to join in on these fighting games, and be able to enjoy them more than we would have otherwise, thanks to the new control schemes. And it's a phenomenal trend going forward. And I hope to see more games do it.
Yeah, I think that is the wrong move. I think that it's okay to have a mode where you have a more modern, less stick heavy fighter. Smash is an example of a fighting game where you're not going to do 623 or 236 or anything like that, right? When you're playing Smash, you're just going to like fair or nair or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But when it comes to having, for like a more traditional fighting game, stick movements and stuff like that, I can understand if you had like a simplified stick movement, but a full-on elimination, I think, is the wrong move. And if you have no penalty for auto combo or anything like that, like why would you do classic? Why would you make it harder on yourself to execute something like this? I think what will end up happening is the skill ceiling just drops so drastically that it will make the competitive scene, it will make them tired of the game faster, and they will be more likely to drop the game after maybe playing like a tournament or two, just because the characters themselves would be so vastly there would be a big gap between them. A lot of harder characters come from either harder inputs or just a little bit more finesse that is needed. If you remove that, then it's just going to be raw who is better. Yeah. I think a great example is like Naoto Kurogane from Blaze Blue. Like, he's a great character. He requires a lot of finesse in order to use. You need to do like micro dashes and such when you're playing in order to use his combos effectively and do a lot of damage. And not just anyone can do that. But if you removed all that from Naoto, it's not Naoto anymore, and he just becomes very, very strong for very little effort.
So you clearly are like speaking a lot towards the competitive mindset, which is great. Is there a problem actually for us to have games that are that kind of middle ground?
I don't think there's a problem with having a middle ground, right? I'm not saying that the elimination of the modern controller setup is like start calling for the ban of like the modern controller setup. I'm not saying that at all. What I mean more is that like when you have a modern controller setup, you do need to balance it against the competitive scene as well. If you want someone to get into your game and have an easier time getting in, modern will definitely be the way to do it, right? But you cannot just consider getting people into your game, because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to be forgetting about the longevity of the game. And unless you consider both getting new players into your game and keeping your previously established players in your game, unless you consider both of those, you're going to have a dead game very quickly.
You kind of answered that already, but maybe something was left unsaid.
I think that I am completely open. I'm definitely of the mindset that games should really welcome, like game community should welcome like an influx of new people that are interested in the game. Like a good example of that is like I played Final Fantasy 14, right? When I was playing like the first expansion, it was very bloated with a lot of like too many quests. And it was a lot to suffer through, not gonna lie. And then later after, they cut out like a lot of stuff from the first expansion, and so new players wouldn't have to like experience that anymore, and it'd be a lot easier and more like accessible for them. And I was like totally excited for that. I wasn't just like, oh, I suffered, so you suffered too. That's not fair. Like, it's just like, it was like, wow, cool. Now there's going to be more people wanting to play this game. The argument can be said for certain games, because there's games like Elden Ring and like Dark Souls where like they're supposed to be super difficult. If a game's intention is to be extremely difficult, and that's the whole point of it, then yeah, like adding those like easier options might like make it
diminish from the experience.
Like diminish from its intended purpose. With like fighting games, I feel like the intention isn't to be super complicated and difficult. It might take a bit to like get the hang of it and like get the combos and stuff, like, but like, and understand like certain movesets and like how to defend yourself and whatnot, and you know, but like I don't think like fighting games intention is to be like extremely like too difficult. So I feel like adding those accessibility options isn't like taking away.
To me, it doesn't take away from the game at all. I know a lot of people feel very strongly about it. If someone wants to play Street Fighter, but if they can't do the inputs for whatever reason, whatever the reason is, if those people can play Street Fighter and like we grow as a Street Fighter 6 community, how could that be a bad thing? That's my personal opinion, you know? And like, you know, I don't know, I haven't been in the FGC for a long time, but I watched like a lot of videos about FGCs and stuff. And I know that like FGC was going through like a hard time a number of years ago. Not a lot of people were playing, and like, I feel like as a community that's gone through something like that, we should embrace that more people want to play and can play because of the easier methods. Like, obviously, balancing could be an issue. I hear modern is doing really well in Japan, but like, I think that just having easier inputs doesn't make you a better player. It's like kind of goes back to the fundamentals thing I was talking about earlier. And I guess like it can be compared to like, I don't know, like, let's say you're like a Formula One racer, right? F1. A person who's actually trained and like knows how to drive, they could be in the same car as someone else. And like, you know what I mean? Like the person who knows how to do the driving is gonna be better than the person who doesn't know.
It's not because I can press I can, what's the word, step in on the accelerator and turn the wheel that I'm going to be able to do the curve correctly, basically, right?
Exactly. So I think having the same tools doesn't really make a difference on like whether or not you know how to actually play the game. But being able to give people that maybe can't do the inputs a chance to compete and like learn how to play the game better, I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Glad to, I say that as if I didn't know your opinion before recording. I feel the same thing. I feel the same thing. And although that wasn't exactly necessarily why I called you because I think you would have a very well versed opinion. Since you were,
Thank you.
I think you were, was during the beta. I think it was during the beta. I talked to you, and you were playing with modern controls.
Yes,
and
I was.
I think you mentioned something about you feeling kind of, I don't know exactly the word, but let's say you felt kind of scrubby using modern controls.
I mean, I think my biggest complaint about modern controls was that I didn't have access to all the moves. That was like the hardest part because like I was playing Kimberly at the time. I was like, I can't do so much of the stuff that you can do on Classic, so I just have to learn Classic.
I wanna do the cool stuff. This is kind of cool, but it can be cooler.
Exactly, and like that's another thing that modern completely limits, and I guess personality, if that's what you want to call it, because that's kind of like the fun thing about fighting games is that like two people can play the same characters, but they play them completely differently.
The good old player expression.
So that's one thing about modern that thing greatly limits that. So like when you watch a modern player like play one character, a lot of them play kind of the similar way because of what's available to you, right?
Yeah. With these easier methods, do you think you or other people, newcomers, would feel motivated to jump into online play and play more against other people, randoms, really?
Let me tell you what I understood. I would be willing to play more fighting games that have this kind of air controls. So I think that so there's people who will never play fighting, never ever. There's people who might play casually sometimes, and then there's a hardcore fun one. But I feel that air controls might attract people, but potentially the wrong kind of people. And that might end up damaging the game more than like helping it actually grow. Because there are certain patterns with people, like the ones that want fair games are also the ones that whine a lot, that go to complain to the big company, and that post on Twitter the reason why I couldn't play this game because it was very difficult and you should change it for me because I need it to be changed. Like I feel like those people, although they make a lot of noise, they don't necessarily will play your game.
I think it would definitely help with that because from my experience that there's that daunting feeling of everything's on you, like you were saying, where unlike other games, there's that, it's a very personal feeling that if you're playing a shooter, you could just blame your teammates. If you're playing a MOBA, you can blame your teammates. If you're playing Street Fighter, the only thing you could blame besides you would be like the internet connection, I guess. And that's only if you're online, even blame your controller, I guess, but you're limited in your options for that. So I think it's definitely more daunting because of that. And then because even with that, then even though the controls aren't super difficult, like you were saying, it's different still. Since nothing else really does it, it still is like, it can cause a feeling of being a little bit more out of your element. And this type of control scheme, I think, can help people feel more at home to learn at their pace. And then because of that, I think they'd be more open to diving into it more.
Oh yes, I absolutely. I already have jumped into online and have been able to to play, and it's a great feeling now knowing the controls and having a better understanding of them, and being able to win matches. I've been playing just regular casual online, and I have been playing ranked online, so it has been a great time.
Nice. Let me ask you something. Since you technically don't have to deal with execution, do you enjoy the back and forth of the matches?
Execution, can you define that for me?
The execution. When we say execution, we literally mean the ability to execute the specials and combos and stuff, you know? That's
Okay.
why we call it the execution barrier, basically. The traditional inputs
Gotcha.
kind of create this discussion has this discussion for years now, and but that's basically what it means.
Gotcha. Yeah. So when it comes to the back and forth of a match now that I'm not worrying about execution as much, I do thoroughly enjoy it. I have found that I'm able to sit there and I might just be shuffling back and forth a little bit, and after maybe a round or so, I'm able to watch whoever's playing, and I have a better ability to be able to watch them and go, okay, I think they're gonna go low on this, or they're gonna go high, and be able to prepare that without having to worry, all right, am I gonna mess up my execution of this move? So I can do a lot more reading of enemies and opponents, and it is great. It is a much more enjoyable back and forth for me.
Do you feel like you're maybe missing something without the emotions? I mean, aside from the obvious advantage, I mean more in sense of like maybe strategy or stuff like that.
No, I personally don't believe I'm missing anything. There's nothing that has popped out at me for using modern controls. I think I'm having just as much fun as I think someone else who's using traditional inputs would. And like I had said, I'm not completely out of the box for traditional inputs. I still have a 2 or 3 that I use regularly in fights, but since it's not the main move set of what I use, it's it feels fulfilling. It doesn't feel like I'm missing anything in my fights. It feels like I'm able to plan out my strategies, and it's rewarding to me.
You are perfectly okay with the drawbacks of modern, since you get to actually play now and enjoy the rest of the game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm able to enjoy a lot more because there are the drawbacks with having to use modern controls versus traditional, especially in Street Fighter's case. There is a damage reduction actually in modern controls versus using traditional, but I still feel like I'm able to now combo, just as well, or if not better than I would have. Say it takes me 2 hours to get down a maybe an hour to get down a combo in modern controls. Probably would have taken me 3 hours to do with traditional inputs, right? So I'm losing, some damage or some drawbacks with using modern controls, but I'm able to have a fighting chance, if you will.
I think modern controllers have done a great job for getting people into online and feeling like they can get in there earlier. And as long as they have a good enough MMR system in order to keep people playing the game against people of similar skill, or if you do like modern controller lobby or something like that, having a way for them to feel like, I can just jump in and play, I think is great. And I think a new player having that like ease to get into it, I think is a good thing.
Another let's as a almost final thing. So I have my headcanon. I'm going to get my tinfoil hat here. Do you think that this massive rejection from the FTC every time this type of change or like control type is announced, do you think it's because they are afraid of, this game proved to be very successful with this, so the developers won't have a reason to keep doing that? Do you think that's maybe a valid thing. Maybe it's just me being conspiracy nuthead.
I think obviously when it comes to game developers and their plans for a fighting game, developers typically just want to make the best possible game that they can, right? But that does not necessarily mean that it will be the best possible game. And even then, the best possible game that they may want to make may not be the game that people that are above them envision. Because obviously, a game still needs to turn a profit. They still need to get people into the game, buying the game, and everything like that. You know, maybe these executives, maybe they care about the community that is cultivated so long as they will buy the DLC pack that has 5 characters on it. Or so that way they buy Street Fighter 7. But I think that I think a lot of developers care about their game because it has their name on it. You know, they want to make a good game. And a lot of developers are gamers as well. But it's those people that are above them that may be inhibiting their ability to make a game truly for the community. Because how many times have you seen a game on Steam or in PlayStation or Xbox or something like that in the stores that was made by an indie developer who is really passionate about games, and it's just it's a bomb. It's so good, but it has like a very small community, but it's a very loyal community, right? And it's because those developers, you know, they're not thinking about, oh, this needs to hit X and Y projection in order for us to make the second game. They're thinking, I want to make a good game. I want to have a game that I am passionate about and a genre that I'm passionate about out on the store. And I want to be able to look at it, see that my name is on it, and I am proud of it.
Yeah, if they added more, if accessibility options were made available and they made stuff a little more streamlined, I would definitely be more open to playing online and whatnot against other people. Because right now I'm just kind of like, I kind of like play offline.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
If I do.
the fact that life also gets in the way a lot of times for practice
Yeah,
and stuff, right? Yeah, I
it
get
does. So yeah, it's I would definitely, I feel like making those options would definitely be make it more accessible for newcomers and kind of casual people to play online against other players and whatnot.
I think definitely yes. I actually taught one of my friends how to play Street Fighter, and they play modern because they play on pad. And they were like super nervous about like online and ranked and stuff like that at first. But I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna teach you how to play Street Fighter. I think he's gone to like plat 2.
Hey!
Yeah, he's plat 2 Luke with modern controls right now, and he loves it. He plays it every day. I'm pretty sure a little bit, and like I think having the game be playable to you makes you want to play it more, right?
Mm-hmm. I do agree. Is there anything that you want to say that maybe didn't come up in previous questions?
I have a message for the viewer.
Okay, throw it.
Just like, even if something is hard, just try giving it a try. Like, I know that certain games look terrifying because it's easy to think, no, I will never be able to learn this. No, I will never be able to play this. Kind of cut your own wings when it comes to things that are difficult. But if you give it a chance, like if you drop your anxiety and give it a chance, like the reward is far greater than to not do nothing. Maybe, the change of controls in fighting games, in some fighting games, might help you with that. But I would say even then, like, there's an option to play with the older controls, or like the, what do you call them, casual controls, or
Street Fighter calls them traditional and modern.
traditional. So the traditional controls, if you have a chance to play with them, do it. Because maybe who knows? Maybe you will actually like them, and you were scared for nothing. That might be it. That's my experience. The one that I had with Idol Showdown. I was very scared of fighting games because I felt that the learning curve was gonna be bad. And aside from that, I kind of feared being I kind of fear confrontation when it comes to like stuff where I am not good at. But I think that's a fear that is based on nothing. Basically, I was scared of like playing fighting games and my friends tell me, "Oh, you suck. Oh, you're terrible," and I would start feeling bad. But I realized that I didn't. I was called like, you suck at this, or you do really need to practice on this. But I didn't feel bad. It was more the fear that stopped me than actual reality. And especially if you have like good friends that are willing to teach that kind of stuff and play with you, I think it's gonna be like easier and more fun. And I feel like fighting game fighting gamers, if I can say it like that.
Okay.
Fighting gamers are kind of tsundere in a sense. Because
Explain.
because I feel that tell you like, oh, you suck at this game. You will never be good at this game. And as a woman, I have experienced that like being told like, oh, you're a woman. You could never play fighting games. And then you play with them, and they're like the next day, can we play again? Because that was very fun. I feel like they're kind of tsundere in that sense. I bet that older people, not necessarily females, but also like males, have realized that their friend that is like usually like grumpy and like very gatekeepy of their stuff will be willing to play a game with you, even if you suck, just because they like playing the game itself.
Let me add something here that I'm actually going to put in edit. I actually really like your takes quite a lot, Vivi, like for real. Those are very, not just because you elaborate a lot, just because it was very unexpected. I didn't invite anyone here to agree with me, but I am very pleasantly surprised.
Get good. That is the saying of this video. Get good, scrub.
No, I'm not judging anyone here. That's not the point.
I am.
I do think that I get that sometimes people could be kind of like elitist is probably the wrong word with this type of control difference. I know that they could spark controversy in the communities where people think that like you're playing on baby mode and all that, which I've been known to joke about that at times too. But when I say it, I just mean it as like a meme more than anything else. But I think that there are benefits to it that you do need to watch how you make those modes might be a thing. I think Street Fighter 6 has done a very good job on that end, where you have to watch. You don't want to make it like if you just mash this button on easy mode, you'll do like a combo that a pro would do. Like you do need to temper it a bit so that it's not unfair to people that want to use the classic mode, I guess would be the only key detail, which I think a lot of games have gotten better at that. I think the easy modes being like a cheat code was more of like an earlier generation thing. But that does result in some degrees of like people viewing people as playing on baby mode and all that, which I think it's better if we don't view it that way, because you want people to get into the genre. You need new blood in the games. If you want a multiplayer community to continue, you need people checking it out. You don't want to push away people from using the training wheels.
So, I think you already know, but Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising is having both options, but there is no difference between both of them. You can do easy or you can do technical, and like literally there is no benefit for doing technical. It's just because because you like doing those. And I actually said this with another interviewed. I don't know. I'm Brazilian. It's not my job to know English. Okay. So, do you see a problem at having a middle ground? Oh, Grand Blue still plays very much as a fighting game, aside from the commands that you really have no reason to do the technicals, at least at the moment of recording this.
I would say that it's hard to say. I would say that you want to temper it, maybe. Might be the best way to put it, where you don't want it to be too. If you make an easier mode too easy, it could make people not feel incentivized to learn the other way if the other way is like how it's intended.
Mm.
On the other hand, that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as they're enjoying themselves. I guess the key thing to me is you don't want to make it so the easier mode would be chosen by people that do know the other mode, but it's so much easier that it is almost unfair, I guess would be the concern.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you can temper that for sure.
You think they should change that back?
I admit I am not entirely knowledgeable on that game, to be sure. Could you describe the change that they made again, just so I can
Of course.
think about
the next day?
Oh, that's interesting, actually. I hadn't heard of a system like that. That is definitely a more complicated case, for sure, because there's distinct advantages. I would say that I definitely understand them having there be a damage difference, and I understand why people would like that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's more complicated than I am used to, actually, for this kind of control difference. My first thoughts would generally be that I understand the change because you don't want people that already have more knowledge with knowing the technical moves to be also at like a number advantage in terms of the damage they deal and all that. That considering people that know the technical skills and all that are probably already more talented at the game, it might be that it was worthwhile to remove it just because of that, would be my first thoughts. Although I do understand the idea that you'd want to reward people for playing it how they intend it to be played.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of mixed thoughts on that.
So long as game developers are willing to listen to the community, they don't necessarily have to like follow everything that the community says, right? Because I definitely know that there are some people in the community that are calling for the outright ban of like modern control schemes or anything like that, or like saying that tournament organizers should ban modern control scheme. I don't think that's necessarily something that is necessary or a good thing either. I think though that game developers definitely need to consider the longevity of the game and not just the immediate sales. Because while you can make a new franchise, right? Instead of calling it Street Fighter, you call it like Road Warrior, right? But it's essentially just Street Fighter, but with a different name on it. Like what you're gonna end up doing is it's the saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You're gonna lose the community. And they're going to go to different games. They're going to go to different areas, and they're going to, not give you their dollar.
I think the last thing I want to say about the easier controls is that I think we should embrace it as a community, and I think we should celebrate that more people can enjoy the game that we love. I think that it's a kind of a weird mentality to like gatekeep something that you love, but also are complaining that people aren't playing it.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, oh, I wish more people would play Street Fighter, but like not with modern. It's like that's kind of weird to say.
You are enjoying it wrong.
Yeah, it's like this like let's all just play the games that we love together. Doesn't matter how we're playing it, as long as we're all playing, and we get like 7,000 entrants to Evo for Street Fighter 6. Like, how is that a bad thing? Just like, what is a bad thing? I would like to know, like, why people see that as a bad thing. It doesn't make sense to me.
So, let me give you like my own headcanon conspiracy theory. Okay, you mentioned like, we
Okay.
kind of had the FTC had a rough because it's as far as I'm aware, mostly Capcom. The Capcomers were like, oh no, if the fighting games are dead because Street Fighter V was considered pretty bad. My headcanon is that, oh, with the rise of this type of controller, maybe they are afraid this is going to leave the genre eventually because, oh, maybe if this goes well, why would the developers try to balance the games around, these type of motions? And that's me giving the benefits of the doubt and not just people saying, I suffered to learn those, so you have to.
No, for sure. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we'll just have to see, but like I feel like I just can't ever imagine a world where like Street Fighter 7 comes out and like it's only modern.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get
it's like
it.
I'm sure if they like see the distribution of like how many people use classic versus modern, you're gonna see way more people using classic. I really believe that.
Nowadays, we can already see that.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I feel like if we were able to see that data, like I feel like it would say more people are playing classic than modern. I really believe it because when I play ranked, for example, I will play like 30 games, and I'll only play against like 2 modern players. And like I'm in platinum, and like platinum is like the most populated rank by distribution. So if I'm playing ranked, and I play ranked a lot, right? So
Jesus Christ, you play so much. I don't know how you do it. Like, Jesus, every stream you play Street Fighter 6, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's still going.
Yep, I'm a rank grinder. So if I'm playing ranked for 3 hours and I play against only 2 modern players, like to me that already says so much about how many people actually use modern.
You wanna plug your socials and stuff?
Yes, you can find me pretty much in every social media as Busujima Vivi or Vivi Busujima. And I stream, so if you want to see my stream, you can join.
I mean, if you guys ever want to hear anything more from me, I'm usually on Twitter mostly. That's twitter.com/Bleigohta. Again, BLEIGOHTA, because my name is spelled weird. That's about it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, I am Zam. I go by Zam VTuber over on Twitch. You can find me on Twitter at toilettuber. And yeah, I stream throughout the week, and that's all there is to it.
You can find me on twitch.tv/Seider, SEIDYR. I also have a YouTube channel. It's also Seider. So you can check me out there. I upload mostly shorts on YouTube. So yeah, stop on by anytime. I don't really play a lot of fighting games on stream, but maybe I can start doing that.
So you can catch me live on Twitch at Lalia, LALLIA. That's my channel name. I stream it very inconsistently right now, but I do stream sometimes. And also catch me on Twitter at LaliaVT and also YouTube at LaliaVT, where I was supposed to stream there a lot, and then now I don't. I have videos on there.
Sure, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, as Tara Kaminarito. And I stream pretty much every day now around 7 to 7:30 Eastern time. That's when I usually start. I play a lot of Street Fighter 6, so come check me out if you want to watch some Anon plays.
And it took me so long to finish editing that video, I mean this video really, that I even got a new mic. What do you guys think? It's not I mean, it's a cheap one, so you know. So let me tell you a little bit about the process. I actually had more people planned for the interviews, but one got the whole audio fucked, and the other one, we couldn't do it on time, but at that point, the video was already, what I thought would be like 40 minutes, 50 max, became this 2-hour monstrosity, basically. One of the other people that I invited to give their own take is actually a veteran, and is very pro gatekeeping, basically. Not naming any names. But he gave me, I think, a valid argument. You know, it's that argument that would the Daigo parry be as high as it is nowadays if it was easy? No. No, it wouldn't. That's it. I'm not going to elaborate more. I want to finish this, goddammit. Maybe another day. Maybe another day we can go... We can do like our own video just talking about the wonders of traditional inputs and hype moments and etc. But not today. Anyway, thanks everyone that helped me with this project. And I hope I'll be able to see you guys next time. If you want to share your own opinion, your own take regarding the matter, doesn't really matter which side you're on. I would be more than happy to read, as long as it's, respectful. Anyway, see ya. I'll see you guys some other time. Bye.